One of the things we did when we started the business, we tried to figure out whether we needed a token or not.
What is Saltwater Games?
Yeah, so Saltwater Games is actually a multi-studio, multi-title technology company that specializes in gamifying AI.
That's a great pitch.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about what are these tokens?
The token is going to improve the player experience. It's going to enable a number of different features within a number of different games that players want and they like. And it's all scalable and it's all sustainable.
Saltwater Game is bridging the gap from Web3 and Meta, between Web3 and Meta. That's cool.
I don't know if we can say that's a big.
That's a super interesting aspect of the whole story, actually. Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Enjinstarter Saloon, the first one in real life. And today I have with me Len from Saltwater Games and Sasha from Arcanum Ventures. And we're talking nodes today. You might have seen the announcement that Enjinstarter is selling the XR nodes or the Saltwater Gaming nodes, both in the same ecosystem, and we're going to take a deep dive on what are these nodes, what is Saltwater Games, who are the people behind the project, and much more, I think. So I want to welcome Len, Sasha, and
amazing to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome.
I think usually we start the interviews with who are the people behind the project before we dive deeper in what is the project exactly. So can you tell us a bit more about yourself, Len, and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Len Findlay, CEO, founder of Saltwater Games. My background has been building technology companies for my whole life, pretty much. 25 plus years. It's a big chunk of it. UK, Middle East, Australia. People have heard me talk about this before on other interviews too. So it always started with their system integration businesses, and then it sort of evolved through different exits into lots of different market segments. Everything from cyber security to artificial intelligence to space tech to flying race cars, of course, which people have heard me talk about several times. So my background is I'm a builder. So I like to build quality as a business first and a foundational structure to then build experiences that we then take to market, whatever that is, whether it's an integrated cybersecurity stack, whether it's a digital experience, whether it's an infrastructure layer, all the different things. And you'll start to see what you see in Saltwater Games is an aggregate of almost my entire history and background from an investing perspective, but also as a builder. So coming to the fore, especially with these and the XR nodes.
And mentioning Saltwater Games, can you tell us a bit more about what is Saltwater Games?
Yeah, so Saltwater Games is actually a multi-studio, multi-title technology company that specializes in gamifying AI. That's who we are.
Okay,
so,
that's a great pitch.
Yeah, one of our studios is an AR VR studio. People will have heard of titles like Peaky Blinders, Doctor Who. So that's the ones that everyone has heard about. One of our other titles that just came out recently in that studio is a title called Infinite Inside. It's got 4.8, 4.9 stars on Meta at the moment. It's a phenomenal AR VR experience that really sort of pulls together how you can combine those two things into something fun. So definitely recommend that one. No Web3 overlay at this point. No tie into the nodes yet.
Okay.
So, we then have the Web3 studio. The Web3 studio is Nexus. It's actually run by a bit of a unicorn building team. Rudy Koch, who's the ex-co-founder of Mythical Games. We've got Pete Hawley, who's the ex-SVP at Zynga, and the gaming part of Zynga. Chong An as well, so Scopely, Mythical EA. So we've got a phenomenal unicorn building team now running that Web3 studio. And then we have our labs part of the business, which is where we build everything like the node network and the XR technology that basically we then put out to the XR Foundation. So we do it on behalf of the XR Foundation.
Okay. And
that's within Saltwater Games. So Saltwater Games has a relationship with the XR Foundation as a prime contractor to basically build all these experiences and integrate them all on behalf of what's essentially a foundation which is owned by you.
yeah.
So, and the people who basically either own the network or the tokens and participate in that whole ecosystem. That's the relationship between the two.
And there's games live already?
We have an experience already. So Celeros is our Motorsport title. That's our Web3 game experience that everyone's probably seen. Hopefully if you haven't, then download it on Steam. It's available now anyway, so you can basically download, play it. It's free to play, but as an experience. And we have a chain integration on the back of that, back to XR currently. So, but we're not mainnet yet. We won't be mainnet until probably between somewhere November and January. It's going to come down to the market. That's going to come down to timing. Obviously what we want to do is make sure we've got gameplay on chain. We've got full utility. and the market is ready for a TG of this type.
And you said one of the games is #1 on Meta. You mean with Meta?
At
Facebook
4.8, 4.9 stars on Meta. I don't know if it's #1 because Gorilla Tag is definitely #1. So if anyone's played that one and smashed some mirrors around the house, but that's definitely #1. But we have a I think we're the top highly rated at the minute, especially in the puzzle genre. So but yeah, it's a phenomenal experience. But yeah, please go on there, read the reviews, and yeah, make a decision to play. But it's a fun title.
Right.
But it is a puzzle. It does get hard. So be warned.
I wanna go to Sasha on this one. I think you introduced me to Saltwater Games about a year ago when we were living in Vietnam together, and ever since I've been slowly following up on what is Saltwater Games and followed also your role in the whole Saltwater Games story. And one of the roles that I know that you played was the nodes itself and designing the economy of the nodes. Can you give a bit of insights in how that process went for you and how you maybe also got in touch with Saltwater Games and then rolled into the story?
I think our relationship it's nearing 2 years almost. We met you guys a long time ago, and we met, funny enough, and it's very ironic, through a lot of the content that we were publishing at Arcanum Ventures. We publish a lot of content that's focused on criticizing systems in the industry that might be, unsustainable, Ponzi-nomics, scammy, things like this. And that was around like the peak of the GameFi hype cycle, where play to earn was a big thing and play to earn systems were very quickly crashing. And I think that caught the attention of a few people. We never really meant to dive deep into GameFi or Web3 gaming, but Saltwater Games reached out. They said, we like what you guys are saying. We're going to be building a gaming studio with a number of titles, and we want you to help us do it the right way. And so that's how we kind of were connected. They brought us on as advisors and to build the token economy and the tokenomics. And then we also invest in the company because we saw the massive potential and the vision behind what Len and his team has been building. And it just took off from there. When we had that initial conversation, this company was very different than what it is today, because we were talking about only one studio with few titles, and then since then you guys have expanded to multiple different studios. You've turned more into a technology company, and you're trying to pursue this holistic vision of social impact and developing technology that's going to have some sort of positive impact, starting with the world of gaming and then crossing over into virtual reality. And that's the premise behind XR and the XR network. These guys are working on AI tech, they're working on game tech, they're working on infrastructure, and then all of that has exposure in the XR network and the node network. But yeah, more recently, they brought us on to help design the node economy and then construct the node sale. And our journey there has been really interesting because we've been doing a lot of research in the world of node sales and what's come to market in the past year, 2 years. And so our vision and ethos there was, how do we create a node sale or a node network economy that makes sense financially for people, and it provides the incentives to people that are actively contributing to the network. And so that's been a really fun journey because we've been seeing so many things that we disagree with that we take lessons from to do it the right way.
Yeah, and you touched on you creating content and criticizing other projects. I think if anybody has watched our episode on node sales of the Launchpad Roundtable, we saw that Sasha did his research on nodes indeed and dropped some bangers there. So yeah, I totally agree that it's important to indeed learn from others' mistakes, and nodes are something new. I think there have been quite a lot of projects that tried it out, maybe in a wrong way, and learning from these mistakes to then actually create some value, that's super important. The XR nodes are part of the XR Foundation. Can you tell me a bit more about why is a foundation needed and how do these nodes tie into the whole story of the foundation?
So one of the challenges we found, and this will go back to when we were looking at tokenomics, so it was one of the things we did when we started the business. We tried to figure out whether we needed a token or not. So we started off, and if anyone ever dives into our data room, you'll see multiple economic designs and multiple economic systems that were built, one with fiat and one with token, just to try and figure out, could we do play to impact? Could we track and trust and bring play to impact, the social impact, the environmental sustainability investing structures that come off the back of the treasury? Could we bring that to life using fiat currency? It was just, to do it in a decentralized manner, it was impossible without a token. So that's how we started. And as we then built the token framework, we had to wait until it was possible to build the stack in the shortest amount of time, which is where the L3s, the orbit on Arbitrum, became an absolute no-brainer when we connected with those guys earlier this year. So to really kick that off in anger. So, and we have a great relationship with Caldera and Layer Zero and basically the Horizon Labs or sequence team as well. So, and Off-Chain Labs, of course. It's been an absolutely critical team and critical extension to what we're trying to do there. But as you're building that token structure and building an L3, it becomes pretty clear very quickly that actually it's centralized unless you decentralize it. So considering you're trying to build everything and put it into the hands of the gamers and into the hands of the community that participate and contribute to this ecosystem, then you need to take the node structure and you need to basically allow everyone else to own a part of it. And the thing what that's tied to is the token. So one of the things we tried to do was basically, instead of saying, hey, let's go and raise a load of capital, we don't need a lot of capital, we're a revenue and profit business, so multiple studios, multiple titles. So what we do need to do is show value against it. So what we did was we basically taken a pretty reasonable pricing structure. That's one of the things that we wanted to work on, was what it was actually fair across this, because we are going to take what is essentially token reward systems and allocate that to the node operators as part of running and contributing to this network. So, and sequencer fees and all the other things that people can read in the white papers, of course. That's had some collaboration on the work of those documents. So the first part is to then decentralize. So we priced it in a way that basically made it fair. We tried to price it in a way that showed value against the running of the compute as well, because that's a piece that a lot of people get stuck on here a little bit, or maybe have over-invested. This is actually a price. So for instance, if it's $300 to buy a node, or $1,000 to buy a node, it might cost $5 a month to run it. So there's an economic system on that model. So, or it might take some of your compute and some resources away from your computer, but you may not realize yet that's a cost. One of the things we wanted to do was make sure that it was priced fairly as a reward system against the actual running of the compute, running of the infrastructure. Now, on top of that, we're also going to be fractionalizing that as well with some of the gaming guilds. So, because for obvious reasons, we want not just node operators who want to see the financial reward mechanism contribute that way. We want the people that are actually going to play the games also partaking in this as well. So we then have also taken another layer as well beyond that, so, which is another unique proposition we're trying to take to market, because we're trying to bring the cost as low as possible, so as many people as possible can contribute and get rewards from this ecosystem and all participate in playing impact.
There's two things that I want to dive deeper into what you just said. The first thing is play to impact. Can you explain that term a bit? What is play to impact?
So everyone talks about the attention economy, and gaming is probably one of the biggest ones. 3.2 billion gamers in the world, roughly, depending on which report you read. So that's a lot of attention of people basically playing these digital experiences, looking at a screen, engaging with a surface of some sort. So, and a lot of the economic systems that have been built around that basically benefit the few. So I know that what happens within a lot of these big gaming studios, which is phenomenal by the way, philanthropy is a thing, obviously, and it's critical, but it's the few making the decision about where that philanthropy goes and where the benefits are felt. So one of the things that I really appreciated about, I know we'll talk about Axie Infinity for a second as well, what I really appreciated about that was, for a moment in time, it absolutely benefited people in an area where that need was there. So, and also where the effort was. So a lot of the gamers, Gabby talks about this, visiting one of the villages in the Philippines, and seeing the result of being able to support the gamers in that ecosystem now. Did it have another effect because of the pontonomic structures and all this kind of stuff? Yes. Was it long term? No. Did it prove the fact that there's something to solve here? 100%. So we'll build on the shoulders of giants. So one of the things that we wanted to do was take that effort and then build an economic system where we land into the treasury with everything from tournament entries, advertising, sponsorship. I'll talk about economic system a little bit in a minute. But we wanted to basically land that into a treasury, have the treasury function, invest in environmental sustainability projects that generate a yield, because that's how you do dual return investing, and then the yield basically helps to fund social impact, as well as an outflow back to the gamers. So it basically becomes this whole flywheel of doing good as part of gameplay. Obviously the games have to be fun. You're not playing the games because of play to impact, it's just that play to impact is an outcome because you're playing the games. that are phenomenal. So it's not the reason. So that's why we tried to take quality IP. So things like the flying race cars. So the reason we went down that path, and the reason why most people probably haven't heard of them yet in this way, maybe through us more than anything else, is because it's a brand new motorsport that's building out of South Australia. That means that they need to build pilots, they need to build racetracks, they need to build the physical environment entirely for that entire motorsport. That means we get to build the game at the same time. That means we get to decentralize and democratize access to that motorsport at a digital level to hopefully cross over into the physical as well, so as they grow. So that's why we started with quality experience like that. So because that wraps around player impact perfectly. So one, we're basically helping people that maybe never had access to this kind of new motorsport, this kind of gaming, get access to through Web3 and this economic system. That's what player impact is.
Wow, that's a totally new aspect that I didn't even know of that Saltwater Games or XR was doing. So,
well, we the very first tournament we ever ran, we had some phenomenal stars. So we have Bruno Senna. For anyone who's basically watching, if you're in South America, the Senna family is synonymous there with, and they have the Senna Foundation, which is Idea and Senna Foundation, our instituto, is amazing. I think they help something like 4 million kids. It's a phenomenal institute. So Bruno basically, and everyone wanted to beat Bruno. I think we even had a hashtag beat Bruno as well. But we had about 9 competitors. Annie from Blizzards was actually on there. He came 4th. I saw him for the first time here as well, so we hooked it out. So, but he's been part of our journey since the beginning. But what we did was we sold advertising and sponsorship against that first racetrack experience. And then what we did was we then took a chunk of it and it went to the competitors' charities. So no one was paid a penny. Everyone who competed in that tournament, we didn't acquire members, KOLs, to do any of that kind of stuff. We just tried to create a fun experience and see if we could put together a tournament structure and could we bring player impact to life. So we then partnered with the International Justice Mission to do a couple of rescues in Southeast Asia to then show how the social impact flywheel can work on the back of even just a mini 9-person one-off mini tournament. So then that was one of our MVP block 1 was can we do it? Can we make player impact work inside a motorsport economic system in digital? We then did we put a questionnaire out to the community. At that point, it was probably about 2,000 people. So it wasn't big. We always want to build a block at a time. We don't want a big hype curve coming up because we have to be able to catch and make sure that we can maintain and make sure that we build quality to support that community as it comes in. But at the time, we had about 2,000, and actually 55% said that the reason that they really watched and loved the project and wanted to play the experience, which we then launched about a month later, was because of the player impact. So, which was amazing and humbling and surprising that resonated as well. So,
that's a super interesting aspect of the whole story, actually. The second thing was the requirements to run a node. How should I see that? Because Sasha mentioned in another episode, some nodes really require hardware to run it, and it's hard to run these things. Some nodes are just a plugin on your Google Chrome, let's say. How do the nodes for XR work, and what are the requirements?
Okay, multiple parts on that. There is a white paper, by the way, as well, with all of the technical requirements are available online anyway. So all of that is in the node section of our website, all the documentation there. It's about 4 gig of RAM. It's a low CPU clock. We're basically saying that it needs to run for about an hour a day for the attestation function, which is how the nodes are going to start their journey. But think about the nodes as a product in their own right. They're going to evolve over time. So there's going to be more and more functionality. There's going to be more tie-ins to things like different game functions. There's going to be a tie-in into the AI piece that we're building as well. So this is the first step in phase 1 of basically getting the nodes into the hands of people. And then we'll patch and update as we basically build more and more functionality into them as we go on a user acquisition, but also game acquisition pathway next year. I won't go too far into that. So, but what that looks like to build more and more value onto this network and onto the chain to then drive value back to the XR Foundation, which is obviously owned by everyone else.
Getting the nodes in the hands of the people. It's not a physical node, right?
Software.
Or software.
Yeah,
like
all software.
You download a program or you add a plugin, or how
it's going to be a small package. I can get the documentation detail, but it's basically just a small package. Basically you download it, runs like FreeBSD shell type Linux structure, but we can also run it for people.
Yeah.
You can also then go to like a node ops and delegate someone else to run it for you as well. So that way it just runs inside the attestation window whenever it we start the epoch window, whenever it needs to happen for the attestation. So yeah, it's probably one of the easiest ones to actually get your head around. So, but yeah, we'll either run it for you, NodeOps, or one of our partners can run it for you, or EaseFlow can run it for you, so as well. And then, or you can download it and run it yourself on your Mac, your Windows machine as well.
I want to go a bit deeper into the economics behind the nodes and how it also ties in with how many players are actually playing. And do the node scale network have to scale? Does the node network have to scale with the amount of players on the network, or does that not really matter? And if there's like a fixed amount of nodes, that's fine. It's got to be decentralized enough.
It's a fixed amount of nodes. Yeah, a fixed amount of nodes because it's a fixed amount of token rewards.
Yeah, I think this is something that we've spoken about before when it comes to node sales. There's a lot of misconception around what these networks do and what they offer. And the level of decentralization that you want to achieve with a node network can be achieved by a few thousand. And so we see a lot of node sales that are offering like 100, 200,000 nodes with sales structures that are trying to raise like 40, 50, $60 million. And it really brings into question, like, what does this team need that money for if the infrastructure already exists? So, you know, on the XR1 network and the hero node structure, there's a few things that we really wanted to pursue, which is fair value for what this investment or this the show of faith might be. And also identifying network contributors, because XR1 Foundation, as you guys have heard, this is a massive company with many moving parts. It's like a complex machine. And there's economic activity in the sense of there's transactions happening, there's gamers playing, there's assets being sold, there's new games or titles being launched, and there's technology that these guys are developing that's being used. And the premise from the moment that we met Len, the idea behind play to impact, social impact, but also the high level vision of the company is I want to distribute ownership and I want to create opportunity for others. And that's where XR1 really comes in, and the hero nodes, because the node network, unlike some other projects maybe, it offers exposure to the token, but it also offers exposure to opportunities, everything that the company's doing on a product level. So that's one of the most important things. And there's this misconception a lot of times in node sales where you have to like quickly sell out your supply immediately. If you've got to get it out in 48 hours, this business scales because it's already a successful business. And the node sale could just continue indefinitely as people come on board and say, you know, I want to invest in this company, I like what they're doing, and this looks like it's getting, you know, to be an amazing opportunity. So the distribution of the node network can scale with the business. But, you know, Len and I have spoken multiple times about this, the opportunities that come with being a network contributor, someone that's actively contributing to the security and the operation of XR1 is just going to continue to scale over the next months, years, etc. So that's what's really exciting about this one.
It is a foundational part of how we'll start to kick in other rewards for contribution across the whole of the business. So not necessarily just going to be the nodes and the XR piece, but that's another little trinket that I'll drop there. The other part that we sort of mentioned, we are a reasonable business because of the multiple studios. That means that we've got amazing brand relationships with Meta. So we've got Meta, Apple, BBC, Netflix games, Epic, Unity, all the major platforms that you need to be able to build successful games and take them to market and retain users and gamers in our ecosystem. We've had to build all of that. So that means that whatever we take to market needs to support and honor all of the effort, building all of those brand relationships and all of those IP sub-relationships that we've got beyond just those guys. So it's at some point we should put all of our partners on screen at some point and show like the depth of what we have. And what was interesting was Meta literally came up to me the other day at one of the events here, which I didn't see coming at all, because obviously we just get on and we just build, and that's what we do. So but Meta came up and they were excited that we got to meet the Saltwater Games crew. So here in the Web3 event, because they're looking at what are they going to do around Web3, and because we have a great brand, because we build quality projects and we've engaged with Meta and people like that for quite some time, then we want to see how do we do some of this stuff together. So watch that space as well. But that means that our nodes have to run for a long period of time, but we're not in a hurry. We're trying to build quality. So, but obviously the earlier you jump on board, a longer tail of reward systems and earlier access, you're going to get to everything else that we do, of course. So, but again, it's going to go for quite some time.
Wow, so Saltwater Game is bridging the gap from Web3 and Meta, between Web3 and Meta. That's cool.
I don't know if we can say that's a big meta specifically, but yeah, it will definitely be part of the crew trying to figure some of that out.
You know, it's interesting because that's the premise behind XR. I remember the original token for Saltwater Games had a different ticker symbol, and as it continued to grow, I mean, we talked a lot in this company about vision and about like long-term core pillars of the company and what this means for the future of gaming and technology. And we went through like a number of iterations. You don't talk about vision so much in a lot of companies, especially on our side as an advisory firm advising a number of projects. Conversations about vision is the most important because it unifies everyone, brings them together towards a common goal. And the idea of XR being a cross-reality bridge into what's happening right now in traditional gaming, in Web3 gaming, in technology being developed for augmented reality and virtual reality, and then potentially partnership or a collaboration or a relationship with Meta in their own metaverse. So there's so much happening as far as like this really bringing virtual reality or cross-reality experiences to the mainstream. And that's where XR1 comes from, and the XR token.
So we've been talking a lot about technology and node technology, and yeah, we're obviously in the Web3 crypto space, which is blockchain. What blockchains will you be using, or what technology will XR and Saltwater Games be built on or starting on?
So think about, XR is basically an orbit on Arbitrum. So it's it's an L3, it's on Arbitrum, and that obviously then has a bridge all the way through the TVM compliant all the way through to it. So that's where we're building, that's where we've built, so as well today. Now that's our mecca. So I'm going to use Dave Pliszek, my COO, co-founder, and this is his analogy, so I cannot take reward for this one, but basically that's our mecca. That doesn't mean to say that we won't build games on other chains, but everything will come back. All roads will lead back to Mecca. So how does that happen from an identity, data retention, storage, compute attestation, AI pieces? How do we bring the overlays of these things together and all come back to XR? But we will build experiences with Rudy and Pete and John in the team as well now. You can start to see some casual and hyper-casual game designs coming out, and you can start to see that kind of content arrive on the website in our application platform. I'll just read that. So we have already on SWG, so if anyone doesn't have an account on that, it's worth doing. There's a whole questing structure that's in behind that as well, but it's not just about questing. You'll see the assets and marketplace and game launch, it's all in there. So that is all running on top of XR, which is on top of our Arbitrum, which is then on top of what's
we talked a lot about the partners already, like a Facebook, a Netflix, and others. How about the nodes or the node sales itself, and who are some other partners within Web3? Can you tell us a bit more about that, or is that still disclosed?
No, so I mean, whenever we can share, we absolutely do. So yeah. Of course, so as we build, that's the whole point of blockchain. We're in a transparent market. So obviously we have a partnership with you. We're going to be doing this particular node sale to the community. Enjinstarter. We've already done BTR, so Brando and the team, they're here somewhere as well. Haven't had a chance to catch up with them, but they were one of the first ones to do a private MVP test out to the community. Within there, we've already had a lot of our investors and high net worths and VCs already come on as well, so we're grabbing their allocations too. But what I'm really excited about is the gaming yields. So W3GG and Chin is one of the first ones that we're working with, and we're talking about it now openly as well. But that's the first one that we've been working to try and figure out how do we fractionalize and what's the cost, what's the correct cost entry point for gamers to then participate in this ecosystem. And for obvious reasons, all the rest of the gaming guilds are on that list with some big ones. So we'll be able to announce those more over the next maybe 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay, so by the time this episode goes out, you might even find these new announcements on X already or on the website.
Also, it's not live.
It's not live. It's not live. No, we can redo this. So you can say whatever you want, and we can cut if you want me to cut something. So you can share all the alpha and just let me know when.
The blooper's real.
Oh, we got a few good ones.
Yeah, that's good.
Can you tell us a bit more about what are these tokens, what's the utility of the tokens, and what can somebody do with the tokens within the whole Saltwater Games economy?
Yeah, absolutely. So the token utility behind Saltwater Games is an interesting story. When we had first joined the team, like I had mentioned before, we were focusing on building a utility token that would improve the player experience around a number of titles, Web3 titles that the team was developing. And as the company grew, they acquired more studios, and the scope of the XR1 network grew, the scope of the token and the utility itself also grew. This is something funny around node sales, because you see like companies that might offer a node sale where you purchase a node and then you get rewarded the token. Well, if that token doesn't have any utility, then there's no real value to it. So it's like rewarding someone with hot air. But in this case, the XR token itself is really interesting, because our journey of trying to understand how this utility fits into a larger gaming development studio and multiple studios really changed the way we think at Arcanum Ventures around Web3 gaming. And the partnership that we have together solidified our philosophy of Web3 gaming token use cases that we now refer to. There's an article that we're going to be releasing soon about our core tenets, our 4 core tenets of Web3 gaming. And there's a lot that a token can do for a game. It's not for all games, which is what you might see with XR1 and Saltwater as well. There are some titles where a token might not fit, but a token can do a lot for a game in the sense of quickly helping acquire users. You can use a token to compensate individuals that are contributing for user-generated content that allows companies to offset creative costs. You can allow in-game micro-governance, which you might see with Celeros as a huge use case, and it goes back to, you know, Formula One and the FIA having this like autonomous control. You know, funny that we're actually here in Singapore during F1 weekend, but granting a voice to people that have demonstrated an interest in the game and in tournaments, for example. And then the most important one is facilitating user journey. And so a token can help identify ambassadors of your community. You can use a token to reward individuals, and you reward individuals based on the contribution to the network. And then finally, it all goes back to improving competitive gameplay, which is a use case you see many massive traditional gaming studios using, because they realize it can be very, very beneficial for their company financially. Players within esports, tournaments, virtually any competitive gaming ecosystem have demonstrated a need or a desire to want to increase stakes in gameplay. And that's where a token can also not only gate certain players from accessing, but also improve the gaming experience and make it a little bit more exciting. And so this is the kind of high-level utility that we've decided is a good process or a good kind of like methodology to use when selecting games to integrate blockchain and cryptocurrency within this ecosystem. So the token is going to improve the player experience. It's going to enable a number of different features within a number of different games that players want and they like. And it's all scalable and it's all sustainable. All of these different use cases, if you have a runaway demand for one of these use cases, the business doesn't break. In fact, it gets much better. So these are like the core tenets that we developed specifically around Saltwater Games and the XR token. And so as the token is sitting as like an ecosystem asset that's being used in all these titles, it grants you exposure to these titles, and it also grants access. So it just grows with the user base.
Okay, very nice. You got something to add there on your views on the token itself?
So not just contribute in that way as well, it'll also become part of the player impact. How do we invest? Where do we invest? From a yield perspective and the kinds of projects. So I almost think about this as democratized access to the hive brain. So because one of the things you've got with gamers is you've got people who want partially skeptical, especially in motorsport games specifically, are very technical. So, and if you think about some of the challenges that you've got when it comes to environmental sustainability projects around the world, there's a lot of different new technologies coming out all the time. And some things are actually good. Like if you think about solar panels and the yield, so I always talk about is the juice worth the squeeze. So, and if the conversion of the photovoltaic cell isn't above a certain percentage, it used to be about 23-24%. I know we're beyond that now. It was actually not worth it. The energy that it used to take to actually create that solar panel in the first place was not worth the lifetime of the solar panel, and then the real estate that it would take up to then power whatever it needed to power. So looking at that kind of thing and having people think from an engineering perspective. So when we're proposing, here's where we think the money is going to go, we're going to get great insights into whether that's a good project or it's not a good project. We're going to get a very good opinion across that. That's another part of this whole ecosystem that XR ownership is spending.
I had one more question for you, and then we can wrap it. But it's faded away when I started thinking about the screensaver.
No, okay, so we're talking about later.
Oh yes, I got it again. So yeah, my final question for today, I think, and we'll do a deep dive later as well on more technical aspect of the nodes, but I want to understand who is the audience, specifically who is the audience you want to run the nodes, but also who is the audience of Saltwater Games, and are these just two different categories of people, or are they the same, and how do you see it? What's your ideal audience?
As with any ecosystem, you need a blend of a few different types. Of course. So you need some people who just want to invest and run. I'll go back a step here. No matter what, I want our audience, whoever runs these nodes, I want them to know who we are. I want them to know why we exist, and I want them to understand what they're doing with this network. So that's 100%. Now, that means that we're going to have different types of personas. If it's an investor persona, if I look at the people who've invested in Saltwater Games, most of them invested because of our why. So I keep coming back to the player impact piece, but that was the core piece first. Everything else is a digital experience that basically brings attention into our network and into everything that we're building. And our job as a game studio as well is to then go build amazing experiences that means that people want to spend time with us. So in these experiences. But by spending time, that means you're spending time with our nodes, you're spending time with our treasury functions, you're spending time with our entire economic system. So, which then, as a result, is playing an impact. So that means we're going to have an investor type persona, and people who might come in and go, I just want to get a yield, but you know what, that's a great project, and they're good people trying to do something that's good, and we need people to help decentralize and democratize access to it, and I'll take the rewards on the way through because it's been well designed and it's well priced. That's one. But we also want the gamers. We want the people who are actually going to be spending time in the digital experiences on this network as well, because then not only are they getting a fun experience on the network, they're also getting to play excellent games that then will utilize all of these functions, from the full tokenomic structure all the way through to the node tech as well. So that's the two main types that we're sort of going for. So because that's the type that you need a balance of both. So in here. So.
And then these gamers, they will not really feel it's a Web3 game, or will they?
No, just come through, play the games. We'll take care of getting rid of the friction at the back. They've got to be great games. If you download Celeros now, it doesn't feel like it's a Web3 title at all. In fact, most of the titles are even that say they're Web3 are pretty much Web2 now. Everyone's realized that it needs to be a Web2 experience entirely with a Web3 wrapper around the top. So for people who then want to have transparency and the ability to exit liquidity from their efforts. Yeah. So from their ownership and participation. So it has to be like that. That is the standard regardless anyway. I've always said, I think from the beginning, it's a Web 2.5 world. So you need the best of both sides. That's the evolution. So that's the next iteration, and that's where we're going. That's where we've been building since the beginning. So, and you see that. Celeros, download it on Steam, play the experience, register, get your TXR. I've got a whole test net for XR running right now. We've had about 190,000 plus wallets Students have gone through multiple quests. They've gone, and one of the things you can do is gameplay experience on there as well, and that's basically every time you're recording a lap on time, it's actually going on chain. I think we've had something like 30 million transactions just on our testnet. Obviously, the more we can test, the stronger we're ready for mainnet. So before we go mainnet, we have to have the node operators also running against the testnet. So yeah, that way it's a build, test, learn, iterate, deploy.
Can the community help in testing?
That's exactly what. So once we deploy the nodes, the first thing is going to be testnet, feedback, patch if we need to. But we're either way from the moment that someone acquires the nodes and we go I think somewhere in October, we're going to start just accruing XR regardless of mainnet. So yeah, so basically people, even though it will show in the DApp, so in that profile. So then when we do mainnet, it'll just be an airdrop of XR. So it's not going to wait for TGE before people are accruing. We're going to accrue as part of this whole cycle. So the moment someone starts, they won't be able to take it off to mainnet until we go mainnet, of course. So, but you'll see it accruing anyway, ready for when we do TGE.
Awesome. I think we had a great introduction to the XR nodes, to Saltwater Games, to who are you, who is helping building the whole economy behind it, and yeah, thanks for being our guest in the first real life episode. I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks Len. Thanks Sasha.
Thank you.
And well, we'll continue the deep dive online with more Saltwater Games team members. You heard about the legends that recently joined the team, and I would love to hear their opinions, their ideas on how to bring this whole story to the market, or to the gaming world, let's say. So yeah, thank you very much. We're looking forward to the XR nodes. The node sales are happening on Enjinstarter. More on that very soon. Details will be shared, timelines will be shared. So yeah, thanks guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.